This is my story about the deadliest traffic accident in Turkish history.
Belki 29 years ago, I came to the age at that. My friend was trying from my perspective.
When I was 19 years old, my life changed on a highway in southern Turkey called the D330 highway. The road was in the province of Konya between two towns, Karapınar and Ereğli. According to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey's official minutes in 1997, the highway was characterized as a route connecting the southeast to central Anatolia, Izmir, and Istanbul, with a primary focus on freight and fuel transport. In 1997 alone, a total of 132 people lost their lives and 440 were injured in 147 accidents that took place along the 170-kilometer section of the Konya-Adana road. I was in the deadliest crash of them all. I grew up an active kid, always running around. I enjoyed the outdoors and playing soccer. I was a defensive midfielder for my club soccer team. At the age of 19, I was working as a semi-truck driver and saving up to move to Europe. On October 24th, 1997, a night I'll always remember, Mehmet and I were driving our semi-truck across southern Turkey. It was Mehmet's turn to drive, so I was in the passenger seat, looking out the window and listening to music. We were well into our drive, and it was dark outside. We were driving on the heavily used D330 highway. This section of highway was flat and on the central Anatolian plateau, which is 1,200 meters, 3,500 feet above sea level. It was after 10 p.m. and besides being pitch black outside because of cloud cover, the road was dry and clean. The outside temperature was 14 degrees Celsius, 57 degrees Fahrenheit. The road was boring and dangerous at the same time, being a long two-lane highway. Large trucks flew past each other all night long. On this night, we were doing our job by driving our semi-truck across southern Turkey. I was relaxed, looking out the window on this calm night. Little did we know about two different drivers up ahead that would change my life. The first driver was a 39-year-old bus driver named Murat. He was driving a Mercedes-Benz 0403 model bus owned by Kayseri İpek Tourism Bus Company. Murat had been driving for 21 years. It was a Friday night, with Republic Day approaching on Wednesday. This gave many college students the opportunity to travel on the long weekend. On this night, Murat was to drive with his co-worker Sait from Kayseri to Kuşadası in southern Turkey. Along with his co-driver Sait and two service attendants, most of the passengers on the bus were college students. There were 8 students from Erciyes University in Kayseri, as well as 22 students from Niğde University. After leaving Kayseri at 6 p.m. and stopping at Niğde at around 8 p.m., Murat was 3.5 hours into his route when a life-changing decision approached. The second driver was Ahmet, who had been driving fuel tankers for 30 years. Ahmet had 8 children. Later, his wife would comment that earlier that night, he had just got off the phone with his wife Emine, telling her he was on his way home. Ahmet was driving a tanker with his co-worker Halil that fateful night. The empty fuel tanker with Ahmet and Halil was just ahead of my semi-truck that we were driving. Coming towards us in the opposite direction was the bus with 50 people, including the driver Murat. Split-second decisions by these two drivers changed my life in seconds. Ahmet in his tanker was driving from Izmir to southeastern Turkey. He had already been driving for many hours, and with the night descending, Ahmet started to fall asleep. His fuel tanker was in front of our semi-truck. As Ahmet's eyes closed, he started to veer left into the oncoming lane. The width of the entire road was only 7 meters, or 23 feet. The bus and the tanker were driving in the same lane, straight at each other. Murat, with a bus full of 49 others, had a decision to make. Afterwards, according to an interview with the Sabah newspaper, Murat recalled, "When there was a distance of about 100 meters left between us, I realized he was in our lane. I flashed my headlights to warn him. Despite all my warnings, he continued to bear down on us. I considered driving into the ditch, but the bus was full. The left lane was clear, so I switched to the left lane. With only 10 to 15 meters remaining between us, the tanker driver woke up, As he attempted to swerve back into his own lane, we collided along the right side of the bus. Someone who had survived the crash with injuries in the same Sabah newspaper report described the moment of the accident in these words: "The vehicle was in our lane. Our driver tried to warn the tanker by flashing his lights and sounding the horn. I heard the driver think aloud for a moment, saying, 'The only way I can save us is to switch to the opposite lane.' No sooner had he switched lanes than the tanker struck us on our right side. Then, a series of explosions followed. Everything was engulfed in flames." In the accident report prepared by the Konya Police Department, Ahmet, the tanker driver, was found to be at fault in the first degree for a lane violation, while Muammer, the bus driver, was found to be at fault in the second degree for driving while fatigued and distracted. The fire came from the bus's diesel fuel, not from the tanker's fuel. After an investigation, the report indicated that the tanker's front left side struck the bus's front right side at an angle, penetrating 1.25 meters into the bus. At the moment of impact, the bus's windshield was dislodged and the tanker crushed the bus's fuel tank situated above the front wheel. 2 large ruptures formed in the fuel tank. The detailed investigation went on to say the wooden panel separating the fuel tank from the passenger compartment shattered, and the fuel contained within the tank sprayed into the passenger cabin. A hot surface, a spark, or a severed electrical cable ignited the spilled diesel fuel. Before the 2 vehicles could separate, the flames engulfed the tanker driver's cab and immediately ignited everything inside both vehicles. The report said that as the fire reached the rear of the bus, a small camping gas cylinder exploded. Within the first 1 to 2 seconds following the collision, the flames spread throughout the entire bus. Within 30 to 60 seconds, both the bus and the tanker were fully engulfed in flame. After the initial impact, the 2 vehicles came to a stop on fire on the sandy ground just off the road. During the brief period of time following the crash, the critical period in which they needed to escape to survive, the passengers were unable to break the windows and exit. Consequently, trapped by the encroaching flames, dense smoke, and rapidly depleting oxygen, the passengers perished from suffocation. The driver Muammer recounted the moment of the accident as follows: "As the windshield shattered, I was suddenly flung outside. When I turned to look, the bus had already begun to burn. A passenger leapt out the bus through the flames. I grabbed a piece of cardboard to help him extinguish the flames. A woman called out for help. I believe she had been sitting in seat number 1. I took her by the hand, pulled her out through the window, and led her to safety. My other passengers could not be saved." The passenger in seat 39, near the back of the bus, was awake and tried to break his window to escape but couldn't, so he went out the window in front of him. Later on, he died in the hospital from his wounds, making the total death count 48. The official accident report recorded that 48 people died and 5 were injured. I was one of the injured. There was a special compartment in the lower middle section of the bus where Said, the other bus driver, was resting. After the crash, he was able to get out before the fire came. So both bus drivers, Muammer and Said, along with passengers in seats 1 and 3, survived the accident. 46 passengers on the bus died that night. Both tanker drivers, Ahmet and Halil, also passed away. Following the accident, 2 fire trucks arrived at the scene but were unable to intervene in the fire due to fears of an explosion, a concern stemming from the fact that the tanker was not known to be empty. Later, it would take 2 hours to extract the lifeless bodies of the passengers from the bus.
48 people, the story ended that night. This scenario was made on the side of the accident. What the names and which person passed away.
In 1999, pine samplings, each bearing the name of one of the 48 people, were planted. As for me, I was not in the tanker or the bus. We were following in a semi-truck. Before the crash, everything was going well. I was a 19-year-old and it was a beautiful evening. Beautiful music was playing and our thoughts were elsewhere, dreaming of happy days. On the road there was a tanker in front of us and we couldn't see much else on this cloud-covered night. I was gazing out the side window. Suddenly, boom! A loud crash in front of us. 5 or 10 seconds later, a fireball erupted like a cannon blast. I was only able to cry out, and then it happened. My life changed that fast, in an instant. We slammed into the rear of the tanker ahead of us. All the vehicles were driving at around 90 kilometers per hour. We saw the tanker swerve, but the tanker's immediate stop and fireball made our stopping or swerving in time unavoidable. We were the first in a pile-up accident. As for my co-driver Mehmet, he was jolted to the right and sustained neck injuries. He came to see me at the hospital later. He had fractures in his neck and his arm. The crash happened so fast it was a blur. I cannot recall how I ended up on the outside on the ground, but the best explanation is that when we rear-ended the tanker, the front windshield popped off and I went flying forward out the front. The momentum had me fly several meters before I landed on my back against a sandstone rock. I could have landed in sandy gravel and been fine, but there were random sandstone rocks scattered along the road. My mid to lower back smashed into a sandstone rock. I would learn later that my T10 vertebral bone in my spinal cord and some lower bones were shattered at impact. The next thing I realized was the headlights of a bus shining directly into my face. I could see that the tourism bus was from Batman. Everyone along the road came to a halt. I kept thinking, what could possibly have happened? I could see it all. I was living through it. And then I heard voices. Bring a blanket. This young boy, his back is broken. I could hear the words. I could feel everything, yet I couldn't speak. I was fully conscious. I could see it all. I felt an intense searing heat. I could see the huge flames from the fire on the bus and the tanker. I could see it clearly. There was so much noise. I heard screams and shouts everywhere. It was a scene straight out of hell. And then I started to hear the sound of ambulances. A medical examiner came and called out, "Bring a blanket, bring a blanket. This young boy is in bad shape. His back is broken." From the ground, I was immediately put into an ambulance and taken to the nearest hospital. As the ambulance crew carried my stretcher, I kept hearing voices shouting, "Watch out for the boy, be careful."
I was at the edge of the next hours and days, a fighting for my life.